They told me to pick a wife, a simple choice among faces I barely knew. But when my hand lifted, every voice fell silent. The one I chose was the alien queen herself. Her eyes locked on mine, and the galaxy seemed to tremble at the mistake that was no mistake at all.
The hall was alive with expectation, every eye fixed on me as though my choice would alter the stars themselves. They told me to pick a wife, a simple gesture, a ritual meant to bind alliances and maintain order. Faces lined before me, each one carefully chosen, each one waiting for the human to decide. My hand lifted, not guided by logic, not by calculation, but by instinct. And when it fell, silence consumed the chamber. I had chosen her, the alien queen herself. Gasps echoed, disbelief rippled through the crowd. She was not meant to be chosen, not meant to be touched, not meant to be claimed. She was power incarnate, a ruler feared across galaxies, untouchable, unapproachable. Yet my hand had pointed to her, and in that moment, the ceremony became something else entirely. Her eyes locked on mine, sharp and unyielding, yet beneath the steel there was something I could not name. Curiosity. Confusion. A spark that mirrored my own. She rose slowly, her presence commanding, her steps deliberate. The air seemed to bend around her, the weight of her authority pressing against my chest. Every alien in the hall expected me to falter, to retract my choice, to beg forgiveness for the mistake. But I did not. I stood firm, my gaze steady, my voice silent yet unshaken. She stopped before me, her eyes narrowing, her lips parting just enough to let words slip through. Do you even know who I am? The question was a blade, sharp and dangerous, meant to cut away any illusion. I answered softly, my voice carrying no hesitation. I know enough. You looked back at me. The words were simple, but they carried weight. She froze, her eyes widening just slightly, as though she had not expected such a response. Her people measured worth in power, in dominance, in fear. Humans measured worth in something else: connection, emotion, instinct. And in that moment, I had chosen not a queen, not a ruler, but a woman who had looked back. The chamber erupted in whispers, voices rising in disbelief. They demanded explanation, demanded logic, demanded reason. But I had none to give. My choice was not born of calculation, not born of strategy. It was human, raw, unpredictable. And that was enough. She studied me, her gaze piercing, her silence louder than the chaos around us. I felt the weight of her authority, the danger of her power, yet I did not retreat. Her presence was overwhelming, her beauty not in symmetry but in strength, in the way she carried herself, in the way her eyes held galaxies within them. She was feared, revered, untouchable. Yet in that moment, she was simply herself, and I had chosen her. She tilted her head, her expression unreadable, her voice low. You confuse me, human. The words carried no warmth, no softness, yet they were not rejection. They were curiosity, a crack in the armor she wore. I smiled faintly, not mocking, not cruel, but steady. Then let me keep confusing you. The words hung in the air, defiant, emotional, human. She blinked, her lips parting as though to speak, but no words came. For the first time, perhaps in her reign, she was uncertain. And that uncertainty was the beginning of something neither of us could deny. The hall grew restless, the council demanding order, demanding correction. But the moment had already shifted. The choice had been made, the bond already formed. She stood before me, not as a queen, not as a ruler, but as a woman caught between disbelief and curiosity. I felt her gaze linger, her breath catch, her silence speak louder than any decree. I had been told to pick a wife, a simple act meant to bind me to their world. Instead, I had chosen the one no one dared touch, the one no one dared claim. And in that choice, I had defied their logic, their tradition, their fear. I had chosen her, and she had looked back. She regarded me with suspicion, her gaze sharp, her words edged with challenge. Every moment was a test, every silence a trap. She mocked my humanity, questioned my motives, tried to remind me of the gulf between us. Yet I did not flinch. I answered with patience, with humor, with warmth that seemed to unsettle her more than any weapon could. She had expected fear, expected me to retreat, but instead I leaned closer, steady, unshaken. Her fascination grew despite herself. She studied me as though I were a puzzle she could not solve. My laughter confused her, my unpredictability unsettled her, my refusal to bow before her authority intrigued her. She had ruled galaxies, commanded armies, silenced dissent with a glance. Yet here was a human who did not tremble, who did not calculate, who did not treat her as untouchable. I treated her as someone real, someone vulnerable, someone worth knowing. One evening, I spoke of her scars, not with disgust but with reverence. I told her they were proof of survival, marks of strength. She froze, her heart twisting, convinced I was mocking her. No one had ever spoken of her scars as anything but shame. She withdrew, her silence heavy, her suspicion sharp. She believed my choice had been a joke, a cruel accident, and she fled from me, her mind consumed by betrayal. But when danger struck, it was not words that proved me true but actions. Shadows moved against her, blades drawn, voices whispering rebellion. She braced herself for betrayal, certain I would abandon her. Yet I did not. I stepped forward, shielding her with my body, risking myself without hesitation. My hands were steady as I fought, my voice calm as I reassured her. When the threat was gone, I knelt beside her, bandaging her wounds with care. My touch was gentle, my eyes filled with concern. She stared at me, disbelief warring with hope. Her defenses cracked. The bitterness she had carried for so long began to dissolve. She realized that jealousy had been born from loneliness, from the ache of never being chosen for herself. And now, here was a human who had chosen her instinctively, who stayed even when she tried to drive him away, who risked himself without hesitation. She whispered, her voice trembling. "Why do you keep doing this?" I answered simply, "Because you matter." The words struck her harder than any blade, harder than any insult. She began to watch me differently. My laughter no longer felt mocking. It felt alive. My unpredictability no longer frightened her. It fascinated her. She found herself drawn to my warmth, to the way I spoke without calculation, to the way I touched her hand without hesitation. She realized that humans carried something her people did not: emotion unbound, love unmeasured, courage born not of logic but of heart. The tension between us grew, subtle yet undeniable. She caught herself staring at me, her breath quickening when my eyes met hers. I spoke of her beauty, not in the way her people defined it, but in the way I saw her strength, her resilience, her vulnerability. She wanted to deny it, wanted to cling to the bitterness that had protected her, but she could not. My words seeped into her, breaking down walls she had built over years of rejection. One night she whispered, "You confuse me, human, but I cannot stop thinking of you." I smiled, not mocking, not cruel, but warm. "Then let me keep confusing you." The words carried no logic, no calculation, but they carried something far greater: emotion. She felt her heart soften, her jealousy dissolve, her loneliness replaced by something she had never dared to imagine: hope. She realized that perhaps confusion was not something to fear. Perhaps it was the beginning of something she had longed for but never believed possible. She had been told she was untouchable, feared, revered, but never loved. And now she found herself chosen, not by force, not by pity, but by a human who saw her as more than her crown, more than her scars, more than her authority. She felt her world shift, her heart open, her soul awaken. The alien queen understood then that humans were different. They were unpredictable, brave, emotional. They saw beauty where others saw flaws, strength where others saw weakness. And in that difference, she found herself falling, not into suspicion, not into bitterness, but into love. The council chamber burned with tension, every alien voice demanding that the choice be undone. They spoke of law, of tradition, of the impossibility of a human binding himself to their queen. She stood silent, her crown heavy, her scars hidden beneath regal armor, her heart caught between duty and disbelief. For a moment, she considered retreat, considered denying what had begun. But before she could speak, I stepped forward, my voice steady, my presence defiant. I declared that my choice was not accident, not mistake, but truth. I told them that I had chosen her because she was more than a ruler, more than a symbol, more than fear. She was a woman who had looked back at me, and that was enough. The chamber erupted, voices sharp, logic unyielding. They demanded proof, demanded reason, demanded that I justify what no alien could comprehend. I gave them none. I spoke instead of emotion, of courage, of love. I told them that humans did not measure worth in crowns or scars, but in the heart that beat beneath them. I told them that she had ruled galaxies but had never been chosen for herself, and that I had chosen her freely, without hesitation, without fear. My words carried no calculation, no strategy, but they carried something greater, truth born of emotion. She stared at me, her eyes wide, her breath caught. No one had ever spoken of her this way. No one had ever defied the council for her. No one had ever risked themselves to claim her. She felt her world shift, her armor crack, her soul awaken. The jealousy that had haunted her dissolved, replaced by devotion, by love, by the certainty that she was no longer alone. She realized that humans were different, that they saw beyond power, beyond fear, beyond logic. They saw with their hearts, and in that vision, she was not untouchable, not feared, not unwanted. She was chosen. The council pressed harder, their voices rising, their demands unrelenting. But she no longer heard them. All that mattered was the man before her, the human who had risked everything to stand beside her. She stepped closer, her voice trembling but strong. "You confuse me, human," she whispered, "but you have given me something I never believed I could have." I met her gaze, my eyes unwavering, my presence steady. "Then let me keep giving it to you." The chamber fell silent, the weight of her words echoing through the crystalline walls. She reached for my hand, her fingers trembling, her scars visible, her vulnerability laid bare. I took her hand without hesitation, my grip firm yet gentle, a promise without words. The council gasped, their disbelief shattered by the undeniable truth before them. She was no longer the queen untouchable, no longer the ruler feared. She was a woman who had chosen, and she had chosen me. Her heart melted, her soul ignited, her world forever changed. She whispered, her voice soft but powerful, "They told you to pick a wife. You chose a queen. And now I choose you." My answer was simple, my voice steady, my words unforgettable. "And I will never let you go." The crystalline walls shimmered, the silence heavy, the moment eternal. She had been untouchable, feared, revered. But now she was chosen, loved, cherished. The human had shown her that beauty was not in crowns or scars, not in power or fear, but in courage, in vulnerability, in love. And in that truth, she found herself reborn.